There's been a lot of talk about the quality of Black Ops 6's launch maps, and I said in my multiplayer review the other day, I don't actually think the maps are nearly as bad as some people are saying they are, but that got me thinking. What COD game actually does have the worst launch maps in COD history? Which COD game has the best? Today we're going to be doing a brand new topic. We've never done this, which is kind of rare. We're going to rank every single Call of Duty multiplayer from COD 4 all the way through Black Ops 6 from the worst to the best by their launch map selection. Trust me, this is not an easy ranking because not only has the number of launch maps in COD history gone up and down pretty drastically over the years, but some of these games had both really good and really bad maps on day one, but I'm going to do my best. And at the end of the video, you tell me if you agree or disagree. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. Thank you for all the love and comments on the channel. Thank you for helping with the resurgence of the channel. I truly, truly appreciate it. Drop a like, settle in. This is going to be a long one. At number 18. Number 18. Modern Warfare 2019. The game had problems. It did. Especially with its 6v6 map selection on launch day. First of all, there was 9 maps in the 6v6 rotation, which that's one of the smallest map counts in COD history. Second of all, several of these maps were built for 10v10, which meant they played way too slow for 6v6 game modes. Out of the 9 maps available in the 6v6 playlist, only 5 to 6 of them were actually built for it. Third of all, and perhaps most importantly, the launch maps in Modern Warfare 2019 weren't good. They just weren't. Frankly, I think Hackney Yard and Gunrunner were the only good maps in the game on day one. It wasn't until DLC started dropping that the 6v6 community had at least a decent selection of maps to play on. So, yes, I'm ranking this game dead last on this list because not only was the map selection really small for 6v6 players, but the list of fun maps was even smaller. At number 17, Modern Warfare 2 2022. Now, it did have more maps than the previous, and they were certainly a bit better than the previous, but at the end of the day, I don't think any of them were real standouts for good reasons. In fact, I think a lot of them were standouts for the wrong reasons, and there weren't really any solid banger maps to make up for all the bad and average ones. Now, granted, I may be harsh on this game because I still think it's the worst Call of Duty multiplayer of all time, but I really don't think the maps were much better than Modern Warfare 2019. Frankly, the only reason I'm ranking it higher than that is because there was more variety. That's ultimately because Modern Warfare 2019, like I said, had barely any maps on launch day to begin with. I can't rank this any higher. At number 16, Black Ops Cold War. Now, Cold War had amazing DLC maps. A lot of people consider it to be one of Treyarch's best multiplayers to date, but in case you forgot, this game launched with 6 core multiplayer maps. You heard me right. There was only 6 in the 6v6 multiplayer rotation on launch day. And frankly, they weren't great. I mean, one of the launch maps was Miami, one of my least favorite Treyarch maps of all time. Another one was Garrison, another one of my least favorite Treyarch maps of all time. And another one was Cartel, which it had a ton of visibility issues before they finally patched it up. So, out of the 6 core 6v6 maps available on day one, 3 of them were average at best. So even though Black Ops Cold War go on to be one of the better 6v6 experiences in COD history, or at least recent COD history, I've got to rank it low. The map selection at launch day was pathetic. At number 15, COD Ghosts. Everybody knows the problem with the maps in this game. They were huge. The maps in Ghosts really felt like they were designed for 10v10 or maybe even 12v12, and that seriously messed with the flow. But even if you did have 24 people in the lobby, the maps just didn't flow very well because you had all the random routes, the rooms, the hiding spots. Now, I'm not going to dwell on this game too much because we all know the map sucked, except for Strike Zone, but Ghosts is at number 15. The DLC maps fixed a lot of the problems with the game's 6v6 experience, and I would honestly say Ghosts has one of the best DLC seasons or offerings in COD history. But since we're not talking about DLC, we're talking about launch maps, here it is at number 15. At number 14, Advanced Warfare. Now, this is a game that I've put a ton of time into over the years. I have a lot of memories of it. But it's not really a game I think aged very well, and it certainly is not a game that I think had all-time great maps. In fact, I don't think I could name you one single map from the game that was super memorable for reasons other than the aesthetics. I mean, I do remember Biolab. It had some cool visuals. I definitely remember the Clown Motel DLC map, but does anybody actually remember the Advanced Warfare launch maps for their design or their layout? I mean, that's not to say the maps were bad. They were just there. They got the job done, I guess, but they weren't that memorable, which I guess is better than being bad. I don't know. 14 is where it's at. At number 13, COD World War II. Once again, one of the smallest list of launch maps in COD history at the time. I mean, the maps it launched with, they were hit or miss. On one hand, there were some good ones. Flag Tower, London Docks. On the other hand, There were some bad ones, Gustav Cannon, Gibraltar, and the spawn trap simulator known as the USS Texas. There was definitely a decent amount of variety in how the maps played, but overall, I think it was a weak selection of maps on day one, and since there was only 9, you heard me right, 9, the community was pissed off. Now granted, there was also 3 additional maps exclusive to the war game mode, and those were pretty fun, kind of, I guess, but that doesn't make up for the lackluster 6v6 maps. I wasn't impressed, and here it is. At number 12. Black Ops 3. Now this game is strange because I absolutely loved it. It was definitely my favorite jetpack era Call of Duty game. But if we look back at the launch maps, I think 12's fair. 12 ranking it at number 12. There was only 10 maps in the game at launch. One of them was fantastic, Combine. One of them was awful, Metro, and the rest were in between. Not bad, not good, just okay. Some people will have subjective opinions, I get that. They got the job done, they flowed well enough, but hardly any of them stood out for being really awesome except for Combine, which was really awesome. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm out of sync with the community on this one. I just didn't think the Black Ops 3 maps were all that special despite me absolutely loving the game itself. At number 11, Black Ops 6. I mean, do you see what I mean when I say people are exaggerating how bad the game's launch maps are? Have you completely forgotten what the other COD games have launched with that I just went over with you? Anyway, I think Black Ops 6 has some bad maps, but it also has some pretty well-designed ones, and a list of the maps in the game right now is pretty long. I've mentioned in a recent video, I think the problem with BO6's launch maps isn't that they're bad, but rather that they all play kind of the same. Black Ops 6 is a game about aggressive playstyles, constant rushing, and that can make the game repetitive and frustrating to those of us who want some slower paced or maybe some more intricate experiences to shake things up. But again, I don't really think that's the fault of the maps. The maps are fine for the most part. I just wish there was a little more variety. Now we get into the top 10. World at War. It's one of my favorite COD multiplayers of all time, but I think if I'm being honest, which I'm trying to be, the maps, they could have been better. World at War got a lot of mileage out of its extremely tight gameplay and immersive atmosphere, and there were certainly some S-tier maps in the mix. You had Castle, you had Dome, you had Courtyard, but there was also a lot of maps that felt super similar to one another, and some others that just kind of felt like filler maps. World at War's maps were memorable. They were unique, but in terms of their functionality and fun factor compared to other COD games, I think 10's a fair spot. That's not me saying they were bad at all, but compared to other CODs, I think World at War just had a lower number of true banger maps. And this next pick is definitely going to make some of you, you're going to be mad at me, but I'm just going to roll with it. I'm sorry. At number 9, Infinite Warfare. This may be one of the most hated FPS games of all time, but you know what? Launch maps are pretty solid. 12 maps in the 6v6 rotation at launch. All of them felt unique compared to one another, and I think only 1 or 2 of them could be called bad. Honestly, I think there was some really good jetpack maps here. You had Genesis, you had Throwback, you had Frost, you had Frontier. I know people love dumping on Infinite Warfare, and I know a lot of people absolutely hated the gameplay. But if we're talking about the launch map selection in the jetpack era COD games, I think it was the best of the 3. You can dislike the video all you want. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. Infinity Ward understood what kind of game they were making, and the maps did a good job catering to that experience. If you didn't like that experience, that's okay. I understand that. But the maps themselves, they were well designed for this game. At number 8, Vanguard. Now, this wasn't my favorite COD game of all time, not by a long shot, but I'm going to give Sledgehammer credit for having a pretty massive list of launch maps, and they were alright for the most part. Yes, there were some bad ones in the mix, but there was also some pretty solidly designed ones, and when you have 16 maps in the mix on day one, hands off to you, it's easy to forgive the stinkers. Now, I feel like I can be really mean to COD Vanguard. I do. I have. But they're getting a solid placement today because despite all the grief I give them for the gameplay, the map design was solid, and there was a large selection on day one, which is what this is all about. At number 7, Modern Warfare 3 2023. Now, this one was kind of unfair because the launch maps in Modern Warfare 3 were literally just the launch maps from OG Modern Warfare 2, so why would it get the lower spot? Well, frankly, because I don't think these maps played as well in 2023 as they did in 2009 because of all the changes to the gameplay. OG Modern Warfare 2 had a much more stripped-down approach to the gameplay, whereas 2023's Modern Warfare 3 had extremely quick movement speeds, a much more complicated gun attachment system, and a lot more movement options. You had tactical sprinting, sliding, mid-air mantling, all of that. So even though the maps were the same, I'm ranking Modern Warfare 3 2023 below OG Modern Warfare 2 because the maps simply didn't play as well as they did in 2009. At number 6, Black Ops 4. Speaking of COD games with a ton of remade maps, Black Ops 4 is a game where the remake craze was actually done correctly. Don't get me wrong. I still wish there was more original maps in the mix on day one, but Unlike Modern Warfare 3, BO4's gameplay actually felt like it fit with all the remakes on day one, and there was a handful of decent original maps in the mix. 14 maps in Black Ops 4 on launch day. And while a good chunk of them were fan favorite remakes from Black Ops 1 and 2, the original maps, they were pretty solid on their own right. And all the remakes played really well with the gameplay of Black Ops 4. I don't think there was any bad maps in Black Ops 4, and for that, I give it the number 6 spot. Maybe a hot take, I don't know. The game wasn't everybody's cup of tea, and most of the original maps weren't anything to write home about, but they were all perfectly playable, some even fun. And the remakes, they were all bangers with the Black Ops 4 movement and health mechanics. Now we arrive at the top 5. Modern Warfare 3 2011. Now compared to the other two games in the original Modern Warfare trilogy, Modern Warfare 3 probably has the weakest lineup of launch maps, but with that being said, it deserves a number 5 spot. That's a big deal. I feel like the maps in Modern Warfare 3 were on the larger side on average, but the game still played pretty quickly because of the way the lanes were designed and how much the maps encouraged aggressive playstyles. You had some really good maps here. Dome, Hard Hat, Resistance, Mission, Seatown, they all stood out to me. Now the rest of the launch maps were pretty good too. They were all solid. I really don't think there was any bad maps in the game. I mean, maybe we could call Outpost and Downturn as bad, but since this game had so many launch maps, I can excuse there being one or two drifters out there, especially if that meant there was some all-time greats in the mix like Dome, Hard Hat, and Resistance. I think number 5 is fair. At number 4, Call of Duty 4. The first game in the franchise to use what we all consider to be the modern COD formula. And the fact that Infinity Ward gave us so many banger maps right out of the gate, it's pretty amazing. I mean, this was a totally new kind of game with a completely new style of gameplay. And despite all the experimentation and all the uncharted territory, the maps in COD 4 were pretty good. Granted, there was a couple bad ones, Block and Overgrown, but you can't win them all. And going down the list of maps in this game, the vast majority of them are iconic parts of COD history. Crash, Vacant, Shipment, Wetwork, Bog, Showdown, Backlot. Even if you didn't enjoy these maps, you can't deny they were extremely well designed for COD 4's gameplay, and they're all iconic to the franchise in their own way. I think COD 4 deserves a number 4 spot. A lot of modern COD players aren't the biggest fan of this game's super stripped down gameplay mechanics, but honestly, I think the maps hold up well. At number 3, Black Ops. Now, Black Ops launched with 14 new maps. A ton of them went on to be fan favorites. Let's just start off with the iconic ones. Nuketown, Summit, Jungle, Firing Range, and WMD. Then you had the less iconic ones, but still really good. Launch, Grid, Havana, and a few more. Black Ops 1 had amazing maps. Treyarch also did a really unique thing where in certain game modes, the larger maps will be shrunken down or restricted in order to keep the pace up, like in a wager match playlist. So not only did this game have a ton of maps and a ton of variety, it was fun. Treyarch always knew exactly what we wanted, and there was a bunch of all-time greats in the mix as well. I believe I said in a previous video, I think Black Ops 1 had the best launch map selection in COD history, and obviously I don't think that today since I put it at number 3, but it's still amazing. At number 2, Modern Warfare 2 2009. It launched with a massive list, 16 multiplayer maps, some of them which were cut from COD 4, and almost all of them were A tier or higher. I mean, there's a reason why Infinity Ward and Sledge decided to just remake this launch map selection for Modern Warfare 3 2023. You had the greats, Terminal, Rust, Favela, High-Rise, Scrapyard. Then you had a bunch of underrated gems, Quarry, Subbase, Invasion, Karachi. The only reason I put it at number 2 instead of 1 on this list is because there was a handful of maps that were bad. And I think our rose-tinted goggles tend to make us forget about them, and I'm talking about Wasteland, Underpass, and Derail. But with such an insane lineup of all-time greats, it deserves this. There's only one game higher in COD history, and I think it had a better lineup of launch maps, and it may actually be a hot take because I think a lot of you would have put Modern Warfare 2 at the top, but I'm going to respectively disagree. At number 1, the Call of Duty with the best launch maps, to me, is Black Ops 2. So many fan favorites. It's hard not to give Black Ops 2 the top spot. Trust me, I struggled to decide which of the Golden Age COD games belonged at the top, but ultimately I think Black Ops 2 deserves it. I mean, look at the list of launch maps the game has to offer. It's hard to argue. Raid, Standoff, Hijacked, Slums, Express, and so many all-time great Call of Duty maps. Even the less popular ones like Turbine and Plaza, they were fun in their own way. I mean, I think Drone and Aftermath were probably the only real bad maps in the game, but with the sheer number of all-time greats on display, I'm still willing to give Black Ops 2 the spot. If you ask me, this was the best lineup of launch maps in COD history. Let me know where you agree. Let me know where you disagree. I was thinking about it while I was doing this video. We could do the best launch weapon selections in COD history too. Let me know.